Okay, let's be real for a second. If you train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, waking up feeling like you've been in a minor car crash? Yeah, that probably feels like a normal Tuesday. We always tell ourselves it's just the price of doing business on the mats, right? We pop some ibuprofen, wrap our fingers in a mile of tape, and get right back out there. But what if it doesn't actually have to be that way? What if the absolute ultimate competitive advantage isn't mastering some crazy new flying submission, but simply the ability to stay on the mats year after year without breaking down? Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving deep into the Matgevity BJJ curriculum. We're going to decode what they call the longevity game. Basically, it's a super practical system for choosing your positions, managing fatigue, and adapting your training so you can keep rolling for a literal lifetime.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're looking at 6 main areas: the truth about longevity, the actual cost of your positions, adapting to your specific goals, Jiu-Jitsu after 40, monitoring physical fatigue, and finally, how to use gradual exposure. Let's jump right in. Section 1. The truth about longevity. Is it just a myth?
Look, it's a question pretty much every practitioner asks right after their first major injury. Is it really possible to train forever without your body just completely breaking down? You know, in martial arts, our ego is always whispering in our ear. It tells us that taking it easy or playing it safe somehow makes us fragile. We tend to associate longevity with this soft, passive game. No pressure, no ambition. But the source material emphatically debunks this idea, totally throws it out the window.
Check out the concept they outline here. Playing the longevity game is actually an active risk management strategy. It absolutely doesn't mean avoiding difficult positions entirely. Instead, it's about choosing challenges that actively build your physical capacity rather than just accumulating unnecessary wear and tear. Think about it. A practitioner who selects positions intelligently can train way more weeks out of the year, rack up more technical reps, and ultimately evolve way faster than the guy who's constantly bouncing between extreme intensity and taking 3 weeks off because he tweaked his knee again. You really want to prioritize an 80% efficient position that you can drill 300 times a year over a spectacular highlight reel move that sidelines you for a month.
Moving on to Section 2. The cost of positions. How exactly do we evaluate our techniques?
So, take a look at this green, yellow, and red scorecard. It's kind of like a traffic light for your joints. It uses 8 objective criteria to classify risk, evaluating things like predictability, your joint range of motion, and crucially, whether the position gives you an early exit if things go south. Green positions: low variability, easy early exits. These are your foundational, low-exposure moves, like a solid half guard with a knee shield where you can just abandon ship before anything gets compromised. Yellow? Super useful, but kind of risky when you're gassed out. Moves like Riva or 50-50, which demand some pretty specific mobility. And red? High cost for your spine, 0 early exits. Think crazy inversions under heavy pressure, prolonged cervical stacks, or wild explosive scrambles. Those require heavily controlled, intentional exposure, not just casual, everyday repetition.
To simplify this even further, the material gives us the rule of 3 costs. Before you make a technique your absolute go-to move, you've got to evaluate it objectively. Ask yourself, first, does this move have a high articular cost? Like, is it forcing your neck into a weird bend or twisting your knee? Second, is there a high energetic cost? Meaning, does it only actually work if you explode way faster than your training partner? And third, what's the recovery cost? Does hitting this move leave you aching for the next 48 hours? If a position is charging you a heavy tax in 2 or 3 of these categories, it should definitely just be an occasional tool in your toolbox, not the foundation of your whole game.
All right, Section 3, adapting to your goal. Are you a competitor or are you in maintenance mode?
There's a really stark divide here, and we need to be honest about it. If you're gearing up for a tournament, you literally cannot just train comfortable positions. Your opponent out there is not going to preserve your body for you. So you absolutely need planned, controlled exposure to high-risk scrambles, heavy takedowns, and modern guards to be ready. But if your goal is honestly just to train happily for life, to just maintain, then you've got to prioritize predictable positions that rely on frames, levers, and early exits. You need to build yourself an A game that has a very low physical cost.
For those of you looking to build that low-cost A game, the sources highlight some absolutely phenomenal foundational positions. The half guard with a knee shield? Fantastic, because it creates a ton of distance and buys you time to think. Just whatever you do, don't let your lower back get flattened out. Butterfly or seated guards are also great. They use smart angles and arm drags without forcing your spine into those deep, risky inversions. And when it comes to passing, the body lock pass is just chef's kiss.
It distributes pressure evenly and totally spares your fingers from those dreaded death grips that leave you taping your hands up like a mummy every session.
Section 4. Jiu-Jitsu after 40. How do we reduce the scramble tax?
Okay, if you've hit the big 40, the research and source material point to a pretty harsh reality. Your recovery just slows down, and your tendons, they are way less tolerant of those explosive, unpredictable spikes. Honestly, for older athletes, the biggest risk usually isn't one isolated freak technique. It's the accumulation of everyday life stressors. Maybe you had awful sleep or crazy stress at work, combined with chaotic, high-speed scrambles on the mat. You literally have to reduce what they call the scramble tax. You can't rely on wild, flailing survival scrambles when you're exhausted. Instead, you've got to adapt your game to rely on structural frames and predictable checkpoints, and absolutely, unequivocally avoid prolonged cervical stacks or reactive inversions when there's heavy weight on you.
I really want to highlight this exact quote from the text because it hits the nail on the head. The partner variable can be more important than the position. Look, as your physical margin for error shrinks over the years, who you choose to slap hands with dictates your risk level more than almost anything else. You could be playing the safest green position in the world, but an unpredictable, explosive 20-year-old partner can turn it into a red position in a split second. You have to choose partners who respect your physical limits.
Section 5. Physical fatigue. This is all about the absolute importance of daily load management.
So to avoid those injuries caused by just doing way too much, proper monitoring is absolutely crucial. The curriculum gives us 4 simple variables to evaluate before you even step on the mat: sleep, current pain, your 24-hour recovery from the previous session, and your warm-up time. You score each one from 0 to 3. Only got like 4 hours of awful sleep? Give yourself a 0 or a 1. Woke up feeling like $1 million? That's a 3. You just tally up your points to get a brutally honest, and I mean brutally honest, assessment of your physical state for that specific day.
And here's how you actually apply that score. Remember, this isn't some strict peer-reviewed science experiment. It's a behavioral tool. It's basically designed to stop your ego from hijacking your training session. If you score between 0 and 6, today is for technical drilling and highly restricted rolling only. No crazy stuff. If you're landing in the 7 to 11 range, you can do your normal training, but maybe limit yourself to just one moderate round. It's only when you score between 12 and 15 that you get the green light to engage in hard, competitive rounds, and even then, only with a safe, trusted partner.
Section 6. Gradual exposure. Let's talk about putting all this into practice on the mats.
The real secret sauce here is the 5 layers of gradual exposure. You don't just watch some slick move on YouTube while drinking your morning coffee and then try it full speed and sparring that night. No way. You start at layer 1, pure technique with 0 resistance, just to map out the movement in your brain. Layer 2 adds predictable, agreed-upon resistance from your partner. Layer 3 bumps it up to short 30 to 90-second positional rounds. If you lose a position, you just reset. Layer 4 is an open roll but with specific spoken constraints, like saying, hey, no neck stacks today. And finally, only at layer 5, and only if your body feels good 24 hours later, do you integrate that new move into a full, unrestricted open roll.
Let's just pause on this concept of the restricted roll for a second, or what the text calls rolla combinato. High-level, world-class fighters use specific restricted rounds constantly. It's a staple. Yet recreational practitioners often feel kind of ashamed to ask for constraints, like they think it's a sign of weakness or something. Guys, it's not. It is high-level intelligence. Normalizing communication like, hey man, let's roll but absolutely no explosive takedowns today, or I'm protecting my knee so no fast leg locks, is exactly how you protect your vulnerable joints while still getting really high-quality mat time. Which brings us to our final thought. The big, overarching theme of the Matgevity curriculum is that the longevity game isn't an accident. It's a daily, conscious choice you have to make. You don't need to train passively, not at all, but you do need to train with progression, with rules, and by constantly listening to the feedback your body gives you. So, I'll leave you with this. Are you willing to leave your ego at the door today, to skip that totally meaningless, chaotic gym scramble, and make the smart choices that will actually allow you to keep training for a lifetime? Keep that in mind the next time you step on the mats. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.